Okay, it's time to start the daily. As I said I would, I'm also going to be doing the Leagues of Legends in this, and I'm sticking with the bots, but this time it is the daily win. Oh well. So, as today's topic is going to be, that you probably have already seen from looking at the here title, is men and women. Now, what do I mean by this? Nothing all that special. More along the lines of just that. Is exactly what I said. I have no actual nothing really like important to say about this. Top, sure. Don't matter to me. So, hmm. So in this, we're gonna be focusing a bit like differently than usual. By that, honestly, I myself don't really know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm just gonna try to like do whatever the heck it's called. Just name random things, I guess, about men and women. That's really all I got. um, Now, the reason I came up with this topic, honestly, I myself don't fully know. It just kind of popped into my head. Uh, yeah, that's really it. That's my only definition. Is just it kind of just popped into my head and it was like, okay, works for me. And yeah. So of men and women, yeah, there are a lot of differences, and then there's similarities, and yada yada yada. So oh, you pick. Oh, maybe. Come on, dude. Come on. Well, so so I guess like obviously there is like the physical differences between people, talking about very specific things that anyone over a specific age will know what I'm talking about. Ah, man, my headset keeps getting messed up. So sorry, I'm fixing it right now. Anyone over a specific age will know what I'm talking about. But yeah. So there is that with but that is just like the base value of things. It's not really anything excessive or special that I'm not really talking about. Um then there's also like the other type of physical aspects, as like men are like physically stronger. Now, this is only to an extent. Obviously, I, being an 18-year-old that doesn't work out at all, that has very little physical strength and could run reasonably fast. If I fought Ronda Rousey, obviously I'd get the ass kicked out of me. The ass kicked out of me. Not the shit kicked out of me, the ass kicked out of me. That was just me messing up with words there. But yeah, she would royally kick in my face, and that goes with like any fit woman. Like, I'm not just saying like all men are immediately stronger than women. I'm saying though that if a what's it called, like Conor McGregor, if he were to fight Ronda Rousey, he would probably win. Why? Because he's actually strong and works out, and he's a fighter as well. And then like in those two cases, he would probably be able to lift more, because I'm also talking about like physical strength and not fighting capability, because fighting capability is a different story. That does not matter whether you're man or woman at all. So yeah. But yeah, it's like that's like the strength difference, I would say. But then women are also superior in like the degree of sports, but not with like any sports, more towards like endurance sports, like if you're trying to like run a marathon or things like swimming. Like that is something that women generally succeed in or are a lot better than men in. But then men are also more in like, yet again, will probably be more like strength sports, like football, even things like soccer, And this is just because of like anatomy, and it really doesn't matter on like the actual person. Now, yes, if you do work out and so on and so forth, like things happen, but still. Or like wrestling as well, men would be superior. Yeah, I really wish this person would hurry up and load in. But those are just like a few of like physical qualities. Then there's also just like random mental aspects of like generally how people think. Now there are obviously to like every difference between people, there are always like the outliers. Like something that women can do that men cannot is if you put a like just an object, think of like a domino on a flat surface, and then you have someone like go down on like their knees and like lay on their legs type deal, but in like a straight line. I can't really give you an exact image of this. They will be able to like bend over and knock over the whatever the heck it's called, knock over the domino with their nose and be able to return upright. But men will like be able to go down and knock over the domino, but then they'll land flat on the ground, well, flat on their face, and will not be able to return upright. And this is because of a different difference, which is like the center of gravity. Like everyone has centers of gravity, and for like women, it's their hips, and for men, it's our shoulders. So, yeah. So now, as I said before, there are like outliers because in my anatomy class actually is when I learned about this was in high school, not college. When I learned about like that thing that women can do with their nose with knocking down the object and how men can't do it. When I learned about that, we started like doing it in class, and we had both like the men and women do it. All the women were capable, but the men, including myself, none of us could actually do it except for one guy who managed to do it and then return upright, but he like took a moment to do it, and I think he used more of like leg strength and like just his pure strength over anything else. Like he was capable of just like pulling himself upright using like the his lower half like muscles. So to be truthful, I guess that really isn't from his like from the actual differences. That's just kind of like him being strong. So that is just one difference, though. Another thing that women can do that men can't is if you lay flat on a wall, like put your back up against a wall and then become flush with it, be flat, and then you and then you do whatever the heck it's called. You have a chair in front of you. Now you will be women will be able to bend completely over, with like keeping their butt still touching the wall, grab the chair and then pull it upright and have their back flush against the wall again. But men will be able to go down, grab the chair, but will not be able to come back up because yet again they like their center of gravity is like in front of them, so they won't be able to do it. Now, what is this guy doing? So, like that's just another small little difference. Media again just kind of like differs with people and people, like depending on the people and everything. And yet again, we tried that also in the class, and there was actually a woman who was not capable of doing it, but I think that was because of the chair that we used was a metal chair, and it was actually too heavy for her to pick it up.
For the problems of Piltover, I am the solution.
So that's just like what we're dealing with anyway when it comes to changes along those lines. Now, as I was saying, there are the outliers because that one girl couldn't do it. But then that's not in like every case. What the heck? Didn't go. And that's not in every case, because there are guys that will be able to do it, and there are women who will not be able to do it. But that is like a very rare thing. It doesn't happen all that often. And, you know, like, it really, it can also be, like, swayed by physical things, such as I was saying, how that one lady couldn't do it. But I'm pretty sure that's because of, whatever the heck it's called, her physical strength, instead of actually, like, being capable of doing it because she's, like, a woman. And so, yeah, there are outliers. There are those who are going to be able to not do it and not do it, depending on... Oh, that's why, because my ability, it's not on quick cast. So... And again, like, things can be changed. Now, as I was saying earlier, with generally how people think. Now, generally, when it comes to women, they're more of like thinking every little detail type thing. Especially with my mother. She tells me this all the time whenever I'm trying to like complain or saying something. And she's like, men don't do this, men don't do that. And it's just like, one, I'm not too sure about that one in the first place. I'm pretty sure that, like, there are men that do this, there are men that don't. So, yeah, like, things can be a lot different depending on, like, physical strength and blah, 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 blah. But then when it comes to mentality, that really is decided from you as a person. It's not decided by any other characteristics besides that. So, because of that, these things just kind of come naturally. Now, as I was saying, there are like the outliers, but that's just because of their actual like mindset, and not because of like other details that can transpire. Wow, I actually got that. And there are like time and time again that things kind of change depending on like people. And by that I'm not talking about whatever the heck it's called. I'm not talking about like changes for how we think. I'm talking about just like changes in people in general, like in their entirety. Like, sometimes people in general, not just like thinking differently, but they act differently, and like so on and so forth. That isn't really what like would generally be considered normal. Now, yet again, this is different, like from everyone and everything. Different things happen, blah blah blah. One more. There we go. And from, as I was saying, like they'll just act different just because, not really because of, not really because of just like not like the outliers, more of like different in general. So, meh. Some people do weird things. What else is there? Then there are like the more societal differences that just kind of happen from people being people. Like how generally How, like, generally oh, shit. It's generally seen, for, like, what's it called? Like, women. Women to, like, have longer hair. That's what I kept trying to think of, but I was just drawing a blank for whatever reason. How, like, generally women have longer hair, and they keep this longer hair for a lot longer of a time. Now, there are, as I was saying before, like outliers of men who will have insanely long hair, and this is just from like their own personal, just being like thinking it's cool, generally along those lines, random stuff like this, and like so on and so forth. But yet again, this is just kind of, it's not the norm. It's not something that's like weird or like not accepted, or not acceptable, I should say. It's just like something that happens. I hate when I do that. Ow. How the heck did I lose so much HP? I don't understand why that happens every time. I got cocky. That's upsetting. Okay, but when it comes to people, like, yeah, I was saying, like, the outlier, it's generally not something that's that normal, but it can happen from time to time and be done there and here and blah, blah, blah. What else? But then, like, we're gonna go back to generally, like, the thinking. Usually, now not always, women tend to have like higher grades both like in college and in high school, and why this is, I do not know myself. They just kind of do. And because of this, it's not really anything, not any important changes, but it just kind of happens and people just kind of accept it. It is a change that people go through. I don't know why I'm saying like it's a change. I wouldn't entirely say that. It's just kind of like what just generally happens. Generally, women are more like concerned with family and stuff like that, where there'll be more prioritized on like the family doing better instead of just like their own personal growth, so on and so forth. Women are more likely for when like men are more likely to stay after at work and like so on and so forth, and things like that, where they're more interested in like personal growth instead of like group growth. Don't ask me why this is. I couldn't tell you. All I know is that it's just the way things work. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Now, like, some people can see this as being something bad. And just, like, see it as something bad and not actually do anything about it. But then others will do things like work from this or think of it as something that's actually good. It actually flashed to kill me. Huh. I guess that's kind of interesting. But then I'm saying like, but then you might think of things a little bit differently in like some other aspect. Like there are still women that will prioritize themselves over the group and like so on and so forth. As I said, this is just like a general thing, not really specific. And because of that, some people will like do things a wee bit differently and so on and so forth. Ah. They'll do things a little bit differently in like the terms of actually focusing on themselves, as I was just saying. That's kind of like the general changes. Is they will prioritize themselves for women, and then like men can actually prioritize the group and everything. What other like random changes? I did get a little bit into like the society changes with like growing hair. Other things like hair removal can also be thrown in there, like where you're supposed to shave. Like with men, it's generally like the face, but that's actually kind of being like turned upside its head. Like there are a lot of people now that will go and say that they prefer men like with a beard than without now, which I personally prefer having facial hair much more than not. But that is just like me. I can't actually say for a certain whether it's in generally like socially acceptable is really something that I'm not entirely sure about. I think that it kind of depends on the area, the individual, so on and so forth. But it can be something that and yeah, it can be changed from like people to place to so on and so forth. That did a lot of damage to me. And then from, as I was saying, like people in place will do different things depending on like the different people. Oh my god, Nar, kill him, for God's sake, you're so bad. I know we're in bots, but still. So, and the only reason I'm playing like Camille in the first place also is because I want to learn how to play her. She seems like a really good champion in general. Why did that do so much damage? So generally in like the people department of things, just like yeah, things change and differ from like place to place, and some people it's more acceptable to do this, and not just with the place but also with like group and so on and so forth. In some areas people will accept things based off of like their own group and like what they consider socially acceptable, and then in other places it's not like that. That they are going to do things a wee bit differently because of other reasons. What the heck is that?
Executed. The future favors the versatile.
And from like group to group and everything. you're a coward because I'm running. But, and that's really all just, like, the main differences, I guess. Like, the more, like, the ones that are, like, frequently discussed or talked about more often, those are, like, those type of ones. It's not the only differences between male and female are these exact things. If you believe that anything else is, it, then you would be wrong type deal. And these aren't really my opinions. These are, like, actual things that have been proven. It's not, as I was saying, it's not set in stone in the sense of everyone has to follow these exact things no matter what you say or do. I'm saying, like, there are the random people that go pretty different from everyone else and will do just, like, their own thing. But those people, they're not really, I wouldn't say far and few in between, more of like, more of just like not the more common. Because like these are the general aspects of what I'm saying right now. It's not like everything I'm saying is set in stone either. And who knows, like maybe in the future this will change, and then there are like there are certain things you can do to try to change this, whether it's in yourself or like so on and so forth, but that's only like to an extent. And even in those cases like there are drawbacks that like everything, nothing comes free in this world. To an extent. And I guess we could also talk about like generally what's acceptable in like other fields, like usually whatever the heck it's called, like usually like gamers and stuff like that are associated with men when like either group can do it. That's not a thing that is exactly on one group. That can be anyone, but at the same time this is what most people see because of like this is what most people see, and that is like for good reason. Why did I go over here? I didn't click over here. I didn't click over there. What the hell? And when it comes to what else am I trying to say here? It's a lot. I will admit though, it is like more. It is a kind of more difficult to do this and talk at the same time than it is like to have a coherent thought than it is to do like Warframe, especially in the defenses and like survival type missions, because in those I can just ignore everything and just be like, yep, this is what's happening. Or this is what my topic is about, and this is what I'm going to talk about. But in these, I have to be a bit more, like, think about what I'm doing in the actual game to an extent. As you can see, I am kind of, like, messing up here and there, and that is partially because of how I'm not actually, like, focusing on what's happening at all right now. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. I guess like if I want to do this way, I'm gonna have to take the good with the bad and not just focus on one thing and actually focus on something else. And it's gonna take a bit more time. And it's going to take a bit more time for me to really be able to like think of what I'm trying to say during all this. This one in general is kind of a bit scrambled. But yet again, it is a work in progress. This is only the second time I've ever done this and the first time I really have a topic. So I guess if you really want to think of it as like that reasoning, then Why did I get double? Okay, then. If you do bots, do you get double? I don't know. So, but that's just, yeah. So those are like the absolute base differences, I guess, between men and women, and it's not, and like the strengths and weaknesses, sort of. Yet again, sort of. As I didn't really keep a coherent thought during any of that, but you know, it's just the way of the cookie crumbles. Okay, well, thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you all next time. Please like and subscribe, and I bid you all adieu. Goodbye.